Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, Krabby Terror 8. And yes, why am I here so early in the morning? Well, like everybody on the in the Arkham horror community, we everything's gone crazy over this new campaign that was announced sometime this today. At least it popped up when I woke up this morning. A Feast of Hemlock, and already there's a bazillion posts about it on all of the usual places. So it's very exciting, of course, to know what the new campaign will be. And I just thought I would do a quick live stream to give you my thoughts, less about the specific, more about I very much focus on the lore and the gameplay and the story. And I just wanted to give you my thoughts about it. So yes, it's called a Feast of, or the Feast of Hemlock Vale, although the top, I'm just reading it here now. I'm literally reading off the FFG website. So if you haven't seen that yet, I would recommend you go to the FFG, fantasyflightgames.com, go to news, you'll see it there, Feast of Hemlock. Now, that's not the name of the campaign. The name itself is the Feast of Hemlock Vale. And this is the background when renowned botanist Dr. Rosie Marquez receives a strange sample from the secluded and mysterious Hemlock Isle. Her instincts tell her something is amiss. Following the recommendation of an old colleague, Dr. Marquez invites our investigators to accompany her on a survey of the island. So that tells us something. It's going to be set on an island. So, islands are geographically isolated, which means it's kind of going to probably be a bit of a sandbox. And could be there'll be a map of the island and you'll be able to kind of travel around the island in some kind of way. That's sort of where my mind goes with this. But nothing could prepare them for what they find there. Of course, deadly mutated wildlife. Anybody who's seen The Island of Dr. Moreau or knows the book, it kind of has that kind of feel about it. Strange malignant presence permeates the enigmatic isle. And while the local residents prepare for a festival, seemingly unaware of the danger, the investigators have only 3 days to find out what lurks beneath Hemlock Vale before it's too late. So there's a time constraint here. So a bit like Scarlet Keys, time is going to be part of the design that you'll, obviously as you go around the island, likely, time will get ticked off. So using a similar kind of time mechanic possibly to Scarlet Keys. Fantasy Flight Games is thrilled to announce the Feast of Hemlock Vale, a pair of brand new expansions. This pair of separate but related expansions sees our intrepid investigators delving into a fast-paced mystery. Now, I'm glad that they said that because the last campaign, I've said many times, not a fan, really a bit plodding. I like the idea of fast-paced. I hope that means that the scenarios themselves will be fast-paced, and so it will be much more stripped back and streamlined compared to more recent campaigns. Just like with the previous two waves, Edge of the Earth and the Scarlet Keys, you will only find player cards within the Investigator expansion, while all scenario and campaign content is in the campaign expansion. Whether you want one expansion or both, you won't want to miss out on this latest batch of Arkham horror goodness. And there's a lovely picture, sort of in a 1950s style, if you like, there in the corner that has people sort of dancing around a tree. This is clearly folk horror. So if you're a fan like I am of Midsummer, The Wicker Man, that kind of style of horror, that kind of folk style horror, very much grounded in pagan rituals, nature worship, human sacrifice, that kind of fun stuff, then I think this is where this is going. So I'm really excited for that because I really like that kind of horror. Takes us away from the more cosmic horror of the Edge of the Earth, the more kind of I don't know what you would call it, more kind of I don't know, James Bondian horror, would you say? For Scarlet Keys, that kind of intrigue and secret societies. This is moving in that place. It kind of reminds me a little bit, again, some flavor around, Circle Undone with the witches, things like that. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. It's early days, but yes, if you're a fan of folk horror, I think I am. You'll like this. Then it goes on to An Appetite for Danger. Naturally, the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion includes a whole pile of new investigator cards. Look, I'm not going to go through all of the cards, but there are a whole bunch of new investigators, and you can look at those at your leisure. People are already posting about them and talking about them. One of them is Kate Winthrop, and another is Hank Sampson, who is in other Arkham Files games, the farmhand. So he's a survivor. So, with some interesting mechanics around him as well. So, yeah, you can check them out. I'm not going to go through their details. And then it moves on to a deadly feast. Whether or not you decide to pick up the investigator expansion, we're still for The story of the Feast of Hemlock Vale begins with an invitation from Dr. Rosa Marquez, as we read before, who asked you and your fellow investigators to accompany her to the mysterious Hemlock Isle, where strange things have happened to the environment and wildlife. At the same time, the people of the local village of Hemlock Vale are preparing for a festival, a feast that for the first time has caused the once closed-off island to open up to visitors. Everyone is welcome, including you. Just don't go outside after dark. Things might turn a bit grisly. And there's a couple of just the artwork here, some wonderful cards here. They sort of have that almost tarot style feel about them, but just fantastic artwork. One says day one in which we welcome new friends to Hemlock Vale, and it's sort of kind of almost medieval like in its sort of iconography, that kind of strange perspective where the people look almost as big as the houses. And then this other one, nighttime, in which the forest comes alive with many creatures, great and small. So clearly, nighttime is not so pleasant. You might have to do just that, though. In this campaign, the story takes place over 3 days and 3 nights, and your party must decide what to investigate on each of these days and nights. So, yeah, there are more areas that you'll have time to survey during your stay on the island, and the events of the story will change depending on which scenarios you choose to play. Each scenario plays differently depending on which day night you choose to play it, which already gives this campaign a ton of replayability. Right, so this is similar to the Scarlet Keys in that you're not expected to do everything. The path that you take means that your campaign will be unique to others. That's great. That can work really well, as long as the narrative is still really focused. The problem can be is that if it's too open-ended, the narrative kind of loses its focus, like in Scarlet Keys, like any open-ended video game in that way. So that's the only issue with that. The other problem can be then it's kind of hard to share your experiences with others because everybody's different, but the replayability is really positive in that way. So I hope it is more streamlined than Scarlet Keys, because Scarlet Keys was not. So I hope they've kind of found more of a balance here between the streamlined and sort of an open-ended. Sounds like you've only got 3 days, 3 nights, and it's supposed to be fast-paced. So that sounds like it's a bit more focused, which I certainly welcome after the last campaign. The other thing I like here is there's another factor at work here that will make your experience completely unique: the residents. There are tons of residents, which makes it feel a little bit like some scenarios in Dunwich and others and of course Edge of the Earth, where you had lots of non-player characters. Here there's a ton of residents. There's Theo Peters, Simeon Atwood, etc., etc. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's a cast of characters at Hemlock Vale, so they're really doing a job here. It's a more enclosed environment. It's not the whole world like Scarlet Keys. There's a cast of characters that you can get to know. So I'm really liking the way this is going. So as long as narratively it is more focused, I think this could be really great. So Hemlock Vale is a living, breathing village, and you can build relationships with the residents throughout the campaign. Great. At certain moments or between scenarios, you may be called on to increase or decrease a resident's relationship level, which naturally will affect how they interact with you later in the campaign. Okay. So that's good. You're building relationships. It's very kind of RPG elements here in that way. So that sounds really good. If your relationship with someone is good enough, they may even become an ally during certain scenarios. On the flip side, if you offend someone or fail to nurture your bond with them, they may end up trying to hinder you instead. With so many residents and mysteries to contend with, you and your party will have your work cut out for you during this survey. Excellent. So, Fate of the Vale, our Arkham Horror the card game designers only get more ambitious with each wave. With so many different paths for the story to take, you'll want to revisit the tale of the Feast of Hemlock Vale again and again. Get ready to survey Hemlock Isle when the Feast of Hemlock Vale Investigator expansion and the campaign releases in January and February, respectively. Okay, so New Year after Christmas, and you can pre-order your copy, etc., etc. So there we have it. It's always exciting when a new campaign drops. I'm excited for some folk horror, and I think the idea of a sort of enclosed isle that you explore with a whole cast of characters sounds really great. Sounds really interesting. I hope that that it is more focused than Scarlet Keys, and that the scenarios themselves are shorter and more dynamic, perhaps telling the story within the scenario rather than outside of the scenarios. Those would all be welcome changes. How it plays out, time will tell. But yeah, it's always great when a new campaign drops for Arkham Horror, the card game. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this? There's plenty of stuff being posted around the traps for Arkham Horror, the card game, on Arkham Horror, the card game for this campaign. So let me know your thoughts, and of course, I welcome your thoughts. But until next time, Krabby Terror 8. Thanks for watching. Bye.